never thought that I would become an architect. So, since the age of 3, I was always fascinated with art and design, and I grew up sketching a lot of fashion illustrations. So, I always had this in mind that, maybe when I grow up, I'll become a fashion designer. But when it came to picking up careers, you can call it destiny, or, maybe I didn't find fashion design, safer option then because
Three, two, one.
Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined.
And the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work.
Courage is not doing things in the absence of fear. Courage is doing things despite the fear.
Growth comes from consistent action.
And you're realizing, hey, I'm not the only one with these problems.
So welcome everyone to another episode of the BYOB podcast. Today I'm really excited to have Drishti with us. I selfishly know her better as someone who has been part of the Jigsaw community for close to a year now, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I think Drishti, I just want to call out right off the top that your commitment to the process really stands out, because we can tell, right? There are lots of community members, and you're definitely someone who's taken on everything we've been doing, committed to all of the different types of things. So really exciting to see your story unfold over the last year. And I'm very excited to talk about you and your journey. So thanks for making it.
Likewise, I've made very good relations in the Jigsaw community. So I'll introduce myself to your viewers. Hi, this is Drishti. I'm an architect and founder of a design practice. Our work spans architecture, interiors, and furniture. We are thought and artistically driven, and we design spaces that imbue an aesthetic emotion along with masterful details.
I guess let's start at the very beginning, which is, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the space in the first place?
I never thought that I would become an architect. So, since the age of 3, I was always fascinated with art and design, and I grew up sketching a lot of fashion illustrations. So, I always had this in mind that, maybe when I grow up, I'll become a fashion designer. But when it came to picking up careers, you can call it destiny, or, maybe I didn't find fashion design, safer option then because it was 2012, when I had to take this decision. And at that point of time, fashion design was looked at as if you either make your career really well or you're nowhere.
Right.
So, and I was academically sound. So, architecture sounded a safer option, although I don't come from a family of architects or builders. And luckily, I got admission at one of the most prestigious colleges in India, Rachna Sansad. And that's where my architecture journey began. And there's no looking back.
Awesome. Um, is there still this little hint of love with fashion design for you, or has it transformed completely into architecture, or do you still keep in touch with the fashion design side of you?
Fashion design is again, it's a design discipline. So, of course, the whole formation, architecture and fashion is, different, but the ideology that, both stem from art is still the same. So I do find a lot of parallels between the two disciplines, and I, do have my phases where I go back and, try to re-engage and, bring some of the fashion in my work as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. And can you tell us a little bit about, I know how you got into the space now, but can you tell us a little bit about like your origin story in terms of you as an entrepreneur? So when did you decide to venture out on your own? Was it right at the beginning, at the outset? Did you have like a job earlier? Did you transition? I'd love to know a little bit about how you started out as an entrepreneur.
Of course, when you're a designer, at least I believe that, you cannot be working for another designer because you have your own voice, and that has to come across. I did work professionally for nearly 3 years, and till 2019 I was working with proper leading architectural firms, and 2020 is when the lockdown happened. Everything had come to a halt. I was not working then. That entire year, I was on my own. I participated in a lot of international architecture design competitions, and that was a turning point for me. And 2021 is when I started out, as a freelance, and 2022 is, now I can call myself an entrepreneur.
Oh, wow. So that's quite recent. Can you tell me a little bit about, did that decision happen while it was locked down or right after? And I'm guessing that would have been an interesting but uncertain period, right? Because you started out by yourself. You don't know whether the economy is going to open up, shut down. We just kept going from one lockdown to another. So, can you tell me about that time, the initial period?
The day I got my degree and my license, I always knew that at some point I have to start out on my own. I cannot be working for another architect. I did my professional practice to get a thorough industry experience, and I was fortunate enough to, have the guidance of, some of the top architects. And, when the lockdown happened, of course, it was a good start for me. There was no work happening, but it was a good start for me to go back to the drawing board because everything became online and there were access to many classes that I got my hands on. And since then, I've had a fresh start, and I started out on my own. Of course, 2021 was a little difficult because from lockdown, we were still transitioning, but the pickup wasn't as good as it was supposed to be. But it but I was lucky enough that I got projects, I had clients, and networking
Got
really
it.
helped.
So let's get straight into, I guess, the first challenge any entrepreneur has when they start out, right? The first challenge I always feel is figuring out how you're going to go and get that first project, first client, right? That's the quest, because till then you are an entrepreneur in theory, but you've not really started your business. So can you tell me a little bit about your quest for your first client, just focusing on your first one? Tell me about how that actually transpired.
So like you mentioned that when you step into entrepreneurship, it's difficult because coming from me, I was a designer, and to be a designer is very different from being an entrepreneur. So like before you step into that shoes, there are several things that one needs to work on, because then you're not just going to be designing, you're also going to be presenting yourself. You have to go you've got to be smart at marketing yourself, and be good at negotiations. And when it comes to getting your first project and or landing your first client, generally people have this perception that it will come within your internal network, but for me it was the other way around. I actually got my first project from a complete outsider. I had joined a networking platform, BNI, then, and it was the very first month. In the second week, I had got this person's referral. I met this person in person, and we had a in-depth discussion, and we vibed, and we set the terms, and we were
Got
onboarded
it. Wow, that's so
to do the
great.
job.
And can you, because you're right, I think most people, especially in the services space, your first few, sales clients, projects tend to happen from within network. So it's nice that yours, took a little bit of a different route. Can you tell me, with this particular prospect, I really want to zoom into that first prospect, if that's okay. I want to understand, because it's your first project, you have experience in the space, but you don't have experience doing your own projects, from scratch at that point. Did your client have reservations in terms of working with you because of those challenges? Was pricing a challenge, and how did you tackle those challenges?
To be honest, I was very fortunate because my client was very supportive. She is a behavioral coach, and she had interviewed several designers before she interviewed me. And at the time of process, what really clicked is we were quite open with each other in terms of the way of working and the way forward. And what she expected out of me is to be very transparent in terms of all my policies. And I think that is something that helped her make the decision to hire us as a designer. And of course, she felt that we understood what she was really looking at to do with
Okay,
the
nice.
space in terms of incorporating all the
Great.
functions
Okay.
and the
So nice to
moves.
have a nice client first up, right? One that supports you through it. I think that's so important. My mom has actually been in the interior and real estate space for a while as well, and she is currently getting. My parents are getting their house done, and she's also decided to work with someone in Bangalore who is just starting out their practice, and I think it's because she has her own design sense. She wants to support new people in the industry. So it's really nice to hear more than, initially I was like, my mom's gone a bit crazy to make this, actively choose this route. But it's such a fulfilling journey for her as well to be a part of somebody's first project, because you know all your heart, all your passion, all your focus is on that one project. So that's really cool to see that's happening, apart from the one situation I know about as well. I'm going to ask you one more question about this first client, and I want you to be really honest with me, Drishti. Okay, because it's your first project, and because I've seen this happen time and time again with entrepreneurs, do you now feel that you undercharged for your first project?
I don't feel I undercharged for my first project at all because the client was very open, in terms of pricing. We did, go through a negotiation round, and while setting up the terms, we were bold enough to, mention that, we would be like, if we don't, charge this much, then, we would be keeping commissions on the,
Right.
products. So she's like, let's not, do that. Let's just, do it at a lump sum and we'll give you your fee. And that's how we got
That's
what we
fantastic.
asked for. And then we didn't have to make ends, like we didn't have to do anything else to make our ends meet because
That's
everything
so
was so
fantastic. I think
honest.
that's a great testament to the client, but also I think very intelligent from your perspective as well, to present it as here are your two options, right? You get to decide whichever option you want, making the fixed one look more attractive. I think that's really intelligent, and
Yeah.
I'm sure something others can use moving forward as well. That's a really smart way of doing it. So Rishi, tell me, with your first project in the bag now, you started out officially now, got your first client. Can you tell us what's been happening since? So since you got your first client to today, I want you to tell me about where the business is right now. What have been some of the wins that you've celebrated along the way? Let's focus on the positive, good stuff on the journey over the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, so in terms of business, yeah, there are like several wins because right after my first project, through Instagram, reach, like an outbound reach, I connected with a real estate consultant and we collaborated and I curated a masterclass on
Nice.
architectural design. That happened. Then I landed my second project again through a networking platform, which is networking now. I met a collaborator. She collaborated with me for a project at World One. We handed over that in June, and now I'm working on my third project, which is actually come to me from
Oh,
my
you
relatives. So
finally got to your personal network.
from my internal circuit. So my initial clients were all unknown to me.
Wow,
I
that's
met them through work, and now it is that I'm getting inquiries
okay. Got it.
from my
Yeah, it's
internal
such a different
circuit.
route. But congratulations, by the way, on 3 projects down. That's really exciting. And can you tell me a
Yeah.
little bit? That's obviously the good stuff that's happening. I want you to tell me a little bit about, so far on your journey, what has been the trickiest or most difficult challenge that you've had to sort of deal with when it comes to being an entrepreneur as an architect, right? So marrying those two things together, what has been the biggest challenge for you to deal with, whether personally or work-wise?
So, like I said earlier, that when you're a designer, you're not taught how to do business. And when you look at these top designers, say like Sabyasachi or say like ZZ Architects, they are the top designers not just because they design well. They are also at the top because they have leveraged their business. They know how to do business. They know how to make sales. They know how to land in high clients, HNI clients, and big value projects. So when you want to position yourself like that, you have to be very smart. Smart in the sense, you have to be confident in your own skin. Like, it has taken me a while to actually be confident in my own skin. Earlier I used to not be as confident as I am today, and I'm still working on it. And of course, when you're
Mm.
out there, you need to market yourself correctly, and you have to be very vigilant at the times of negotiation and when you're setting up the terms, because you have to realize that you're working on a project which
Mm.
is going to be a long term engagement, and there are going to be setbacks, there are going to be conflicts. So you have to be very mindful of all of that and resolve
Mm.
without
And
any
so,
emotions
let's
letting
go a
in.
little bit deeper on both of these things, right? So you talked about the confidence piece, and you talked about the, being aware when it comes to negotiations, etc. So I'd first like to deep dive into the confidence piece. So when you say that being confident in your own skin was a challenge, it's still something you're working on. Can I understand a little bit more about what you mean by that? Is it confidence in your skills, in who you are, in your experience? What's holding you back in terms of being confident as an architect and as a business owner?
So I'm very confident in my own abilities, in my skill set, and in my experience. Where I lack confidence is because I'm an introvert person. uh,
Hmm.
I'm not very outspoken. It takes me a while to get along, or be comfortable when I'm giving a public speech.
Okay, so and you feel like that's a skill you need and would help you to grow your business as well?
Absolutely, the more confidence sells. The more
Got it.
confident you
Okay.
are, people
And
want
can
to
you
work
tell
with
me
you.
a little bit about how you're going about, building that confidence right now? Like, do you have a method to it, or is it just with time you believe that confidence will come?
So I've actually put in a lot of self work for that. You know, by confidence, it's not just enhancing your speech skills. It's also your
Hmm.
personal development. So in terms of keeping your emotions intact, or you know being being more spontaneous with your flow. So it's a proper work.
Sure.
Like, it's not just one aspect that I need to work on. It's several things along with many
Got it.
strategies on the business front,
Yeah.
because we are
And
not taught
that's
business.
something everybody I speak to on this podcast and outside who's from the creative space or the design space, this is something they keep saying. They keep saying we were taught the skills, we were taught the domain, we're not taught business. And then people expect us to grow the space by being entrepreneurs, but we need to learn about business as well, right? I think that's a very common complaint, and hopefully,
Yeah.
we'll make some progress overall where we are also trying as Jigsaw over the next year or so. We're trying to get into a few design schools so that we can create a business module for them, so that that experience is there right out of college. So that'll be interesting.
So in that confidence only, let me just give you an example, because as designers, when we are starting out, it is expected that we lower our prices so that we build on our portfolio. And because we are so weak in business, we don't realize that negotiation is not to discount our prices to make our portfolio, but the meaning of negotiation is to make a win-win situation for both sides. If I'm lowering my price, then I make sure that the scope is reduced, or my deliverables or my engagement is reduced, so that I value my time and my services. So there are these subtle differences even in the terminologies that needs to be cleared, so that one can be smarter when they are closing clients, and the deals are made
And yeah, I
on
mean, this
right
sounds like
conditions.
stuff that if you were taught, you'd have an advantage. But right now, you're obviously learning on the job and figuring it out, right, as you go. So there's a little bit of like a learning tax you're having to pay, but you're learning it and you're implementing it for your next conversation or for your next client, which I guess is natural. Um, I want to know from you as well, Drishti, what's next for you? So we've talked about where you started. We talked about your journey till where you are today. What is next for you? What are your ambitions for 2024 and beyond?
So I'm a very passionate person, and I love what I do. And it has been my dream to design an upscale boutique resort, and I'm just manifesting that, hope that comes into my life, and I get that opportunity. I've started to connect with a lot of hoteliers and hospitality
Wow.
consultants for that. I've also sent a couple of proposals. Let's just see that, if it's there in
That's
the cards for
fantastic.
me, I'm
I
just
love that you
working
have
towards it.
such clarity in terms
Yeah.
of what you're going after. I think that's like the first step, right? If you don't have clarity, there's no chance you're going to achieve it. The second step is putting it out there, which you are doing here, and it sounds like you've been doing elsewhere as well. But I really most excited about the third step, which is you're clear, you're manifesting it, but you're also taking action towards it, right? Sending out proposals, emails, etc., starting those conversations. That's how this stuff happens. So we'll be rooting for you, of course, cheering you on and helping you in any way possible with this. Really excited about this goal, and hopefully you achieve that and much more in over the next 12 months. Um, I think Drishti, we've talked a fair bit about the journey. I'd like to maybe shift gears a little bit and have some fun. So, do you know about the Jaldi with Jigsaw segment that we do on this podcast? That's what we're going to do now. I
Yes.
just have a few rapid fire questions for you. Just give me the first thought that comes into your mind for each of these questions. What is the latest show you've been watching on Netflix or anything else?
Suits.
Oh wow, Suits. Rewatch or you've just started watching it recently?
I've just started watching and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's really good fun. It's full of really slick one-liners and stuff, which is really fun to watch. I think. Also, it's interesting to watch royalty on screen in a soap opera, right? I think the princess is there, so that's kind of crazy. What do you enjoy most about being your own boss?
Freedom to do what I want to do.
And what do you find most challenging about being your own boss?
Uncertainty.
Yeah, I think that makes all the sense in the world. How do you switch off at the end of a long day?
I go for a long walk.
Nice, got it. Do you listen to music while you're doing it, or is it just you and the walk?
Yeah, I do listen to music.
Okay, so next question: who's your favorite singer, or what's your favorite band?
I like listening to Kishore Kumar, Lata Mangeshkar.
Nice, the classics. Very nice. Got it. Yeah, I love them as well. In fact, I feel like all grandparents have this, but my grandparents used to have that little radio in their room, and they just keep playing old. Like every evening was just old Bollywood songs on repeat. So I've grown up with them. So I love them as well. Okay, who is your biggest cheerleader?
My sister.
Got it. What is a piece of advice you would give other small business owners out there?
So there are going to be struggles, there are going to be setbacks and challenges. Make sure that you introspect and learn from them because only
Wow,
then you will come out stronger and smarter.
beautiful. It's almost like you prepared for that question, but I don't think you did. That's beautiful. Um, what three words would you use to define a jigsaw thinker?
Compassionate, passionate, and
And
determined.
final question in Jaldi with Jigsaw is how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as someone who brought in a lot of innovation and excellence in her work.
Cool. You just smashed Jaldi with Jigsaw. That was super Jaldi, and really nice. So thank you so much for that. Um, I guess just a final one or two questions to wrap things up, Drishti. The first is, like I said at the top of the show, you've been with us for like close to a year now. Has it been a year? Over a year? I'm bad with time. It's
Yeah,
been a year now. So can you tell us a little bit about Jigsaw has been in your first year? What have been the highlights? What have been a couple of things you've learned? What stands out for you?
so what really stands out for me is the community. Of course, the tough love cohorts work really great. I got to make some amazing relations when I was put in the cohorts, and also, you know, it's a group of entrepreneurs. So there's another kind of feeling when you're learning with other entrepreneurs.
Got
So
it.
the learning gets more impactful because you get to learn their perspective and also share your perspective.
Got it. Great. I'm so glad the Tough Love cohorts and learning from the community worked for you. I also, whenever people ask me about Jigsaw, I always tell them the heart and soul is the people and the community. And that's really it, right? All the magic happens there. So I'm glad that's working for you as well. Drishti, for our listeners and viewers who might want to follow your journey, your story, might even want to get in touch with you to design a resort or two, where can they follow you? Where can they get in touch with you?
So they can follow me on my Instagram. My handle name is Drishti Bhartia _atelier. They can also connect with me on LinkedIn. My name Drishti Bhartia. So yeah.
Got it. Cool. Thank you so much for this conversation, Drishti. It was so nice to make sure I learned that I should introduce you as architect, not interior designer, and also learn so much about your journey. So thank you so much for sharing, being candid, and adding a lot of value for me and for all of the listeners out there. Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We're Jigsaw Thinking, home of the self-starters. If you're interested in being your own boss, head to jigsawthinking.com or drop us a DM at Jigsaw Thinking on Instagram.